October 16th meeting of the Water and Wastewater Commission to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. There's no one in the audience looking to speak, so at this time I ask that all electronic devices be put in silent mode and call the meeting to order. Since there is no public forum, the first item we have, I think everybody has received a copy of it. We had a constituent proposal. We do have a response from the city solicitor advising us that this is not something that we could do that would not likely be successfully challenged legally. So I think unless someone feels otherwise, there's no further action unless someone wants to make a proposal. Do I hear anybody who wants to make a proposal? Okay, then we will move on. We have sent this information to the constituent that made the proposal as well. Let's see. Everybody has received a copy of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'll accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Second. So moved.
Motion carries.
Who made the proposal?
Wedgie? Wedgie, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, we do have an introduction. We have a new member of the commission. Let's see. Gary Withington?
Yes.
Welcome. Happy to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
We'll start with John. I think you're up with the Water Division.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Gary. Nice to have you on the commission. Appreciate you're willing to serve here. First item on my agenda is the Boulder Drive water main replacement project. The project's pretty much complete. The only thing is left is some punch list items, and then we're also going to be milling and paving the section of Boulder Drive that we excavated, but which will not be disturbed by the future sewer separation project. So, so there may be some areas that we excavated a trench in, but we're not going to pave because we know that next year or the year after they're going to be coming through and excavating it for stormwater and sewer and things like that. So, like I said, we're on the punch list item in that part of it, and the water main's all in and in service. So we're happy to be at that point in the project. The Main Street water main project has been awarded, and we've actually already had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor, and they anticipate doing some of the work as we had planned, replacing valves or installing new valves along the side streets to Main Street, so that we have full control over the system in that area, and allow for temporary piping to be connected, during the course of that project. The main portion of the project will begin in the spring as early as possible. We can't start any earlier than the freezing temperatures will allow because of the temporary piping that will be supplying not only the domestic supplies for each building, but also the fire protection. So hopefully we have an early spring. The contractor actually anticipates being able to finish everything on the Main Street project with the two water mains being replaced, the services and everything else by the end of next year's construction season. So Boulder Drive was a tough project, but this will be doubly as tough just because of the number of buildings and connections and things like that. So we'll do our best to inform the public. The mayor, I'm sure, will be putting out advisories and information, and hopefully we can get through it without too much stress. But like I said, it will be a difficult project. I don't know if anybody has any questions on either of those. Just let me know.
Any questions? Looks like you're good.
Okay. The next thing on the item is the regional water treatment plant. We're in the midst of a study with Weston Sampson, just looking at the overall plant, the equipment, and the processes, including doing jar tests for substituting some of the treatment chemicals. We do have a new NIPTES permit and PDS permit for aluminum discharge because of the one of the coagulants we use. So we're looking at possibly using something else, and the jar tests have been completed. We're just waiting for the results of that. But the end result is that this study will tell us what we need to do to upgrade the plant, you know, to meet the future needs and improve, you know, the operation of the plant, as well as replace some aging equipment. Probably the most important part is the replacement of the rebuilding of the clarifiers and filters. They're at the end of, you know, their life, and all of those need to be replaced and upgraded. So we actually have one filter that's in failure right now. We don't need it. The plant has plenty of capacity, but we just don't have the ability to swap over to it at this point. So, like I said, this study will, you know, tell us what we need to do. I mean, everything's being looked at, including HVAC, electrical, just to make sure everything, you know, is addressed when we do have the actual project to upgrade the plant. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that part of it.
Any questions? Good, John.
Okay. The other thing we've been looking at is the Westminster transmission mains coming from the regional treatment plant all the way into the city, basically to the industrial park next to Route 2. We have two 24-inch transmission mains, and a couple weeks ago, we discovered a leak on one of them on the Westminster side near Narrows Road. A bit of a project to shut down that main because the distance between valves was at least a mile. So that's a mile of main that not only do we have to take out of service, but we also have to drain down to complete the repair. The leak that we found was a joint that had failed. We did cut that out and replace, you know, make that repair, but we also installed an additional new valve in that main, so we have better control on that. So. But we need to really look at that for a future project and funding for that, and maybe even try to get some funding from the state, because the Route 2 corridor and that Narrows Road exit, when that work was all done, it basically, you know, made our those two water mains inaccessible within those travel lanes. It is as much as 25 feet of fill over them. So it, you know, creates a problem if we did have a leak or a failure within that location. Fortunately, the main does not have a lot of pressure. It's generally probably in the 40 to 50 PSI range, much lower than we see down further in the city. So that's, you know, working for us in that respect. But as I said, we're going to be looking at those a little bit more. We're going to determine, you know, what methods will be used to replace them, whether, you know, it's a boring or lining. The mains, MassDEP requires it to be trenchless, so we won't be making an open cut through Route 2, which we probably wouldn't have anyway, but we need to, you know, like I said, determine what's the best way of you know, making sure that those mains don't fail in those locations, and work toward a project in the next few years to either replace or upgrade them. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that.
Any questions? Nope. Good, John.
And yep, the last project that just got done is Weston Sampson completed a comprehensive inventory of all our water service lines. And when I mean the service lines, it's the lines, you know, from the water main in the street to the houses or commercial building or industrial building. So we have over 11,000 services. There's an owner's side and there's a city side, basically at the property line. So Weston Sampson, like I said, over the course of the last year, completed basically looked at every bit of information we had on these service lines. And the purpose of this was to identify any lead service lines. US EPA, MassDEP is looking for people to get, you know, remove, replace all lead service lines in the next 10 to 15 years. So the end result is that not one of our lines are lead. The city never really used lead in any of its service lines, and the result of this comprehensive study determined that, that none did exist. So it's a huge plus for us. There's a lot of cities and towns that are going to be, dealing with this. People that, that do have lead service lines or may have lead service lines in those cities and towns are going to be receiving letters, that they may have a lead service line to their house. We won't be sending out any letters because we don't have any lead service lines. All ours are either, historically or initially they're iron pipe services, and then basically they switched to copper probably in the 30s to 40s, and definitely after the 1940 they were all copper service lines. Of course, in the last 20 years we've switched to PE or plastic service lines as well. So that I know there's going to be a lot of news articles. I think there was one in the Sentinel. Nick had indicated to me today about this. These projects for every city and town where the public water supply had to do, look at their service lines. And the problem is like, if they don't have good records of the service lines, then it's an unknown. So we had very, very good records, comprehensive records on every service line, when they were installed, what they were made of, when the repairs are made, so that we were able to determine that we don't, that Weston Sampson determined that we don't have lead service lines. This whole batch of information was input into spreadsheets that were provided by MassDEP, an Excel spreadsheet, and they have that information for their review. But I don't know, Nick, you have anything to add? I know you said you saw the article in the Sentinel, I believe.
I just heard from someone, it was either the Sentinel or the Telegram, but there was an article that was written about other communities that had lead service lines and what the requirements would be. So I was happy to hear that we didn't have any based on Weston and Sampson's study.
Yeah, no, it's a huge plus for us. I mean, it's some communities, it's going to be a lot of work for them to resolve this. And I'm sure that the people that, whose house or business is served by a lead service line, they may not have been aware of it, but, now they're going to be receiving a letter. But I know, Boston has quite a bit. I'm not quite sure about Worcester, but I'm sure there's many cities and towns in Massachusetts that have a large number of lead service lines. So it'll be good to get them out. But fortunately here in Fitchburg, we didn't have any. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on any of that.
Any questions for John?
Nope.
We're good.
One thing I would like to add is that we're going to be doing additional testing. I mean, we've been, any grant that we were able to get or assistance from DEP with, testing for lead in schools and in water, whether it's fountains or faucets or whatever, we've, been right on top of that. Having said that, there's going to be more comprehensive testing for lead and copper in the future, starting next year. Even though we don't have lead service lines, we still want to make sure that there isn't any lead, and we don't exceed any lead levels. Since we don't have lead service lines, where does that lead come from? It's going to be in the house plumbing systems and the building plumbing systems. That's typically where it is. And the first flush in the morning is when you see the highest lead levels in a house or a business or something like that. So we will be doing additional testing for that just to make sure. We have always had well, not always, but for a couple decades, 30 years plus, we have corrosion control, as many communities do, which we basically, the water in New England is acidic, so it causes things to leach out of metals, which would be lead and, solder. Even copper has lead content. The older copper nowadays is lead free, but the corrosion control, reduces the acidity of our water, neutralizes the pH, and we also add alkalinity to it. So basically, it coats those pipes even on the inside of houses to make sure that that lead doesn't leach out. So even though it's a small content within, like I said, lead solder or lead in the copper or the brass fittings or even the faucets themselves. So we want to make sure that our corrosion control, and DEP wants us to as well, of course, that's what the regulation's for, but to make sure that our corrosion control is being effective and that it is, coating the pipes per se and making sure that, lead isn't leaching out. So in past years, we've actually had waivers for lead and copper testing because we haven't had any exceedances. So, but like I said, there's going to be even more testing. And if there is an exceedance of lead, we'll be required to, notify the public of that. And an exceedance would be where, we collected 50 samples and, 3 or 4 were above the limit. So it isn't like it would be a general, detection across system wide. It'd be a few instances where, lead was detected in a house, one of the sampling locations that are selected out throughout the system by MassDEP. So they're basically the ones, working with our consultants and us or whatever, that we select the worst case scenarios as far as collecting samples for lead and copper. So we're not, choosing things that, we want to make sure that we're testing where, where we think there might be, if we're going to get a hit, that's the location we want to sample. So we don't want to, we're not hiding anything or, testing favorably. It's very comprehensive. So that's what I'd just like to add on that. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that part of it.
Joe, you had a question?
John, this is Joe Byrne speaking, and I'd like to ask you a couple questions. You said there's 11,000 services in the city of Pittsburgh, and none of them,
over 11,000.
Okay, and none of them have lead in the intake system. Is that correct?
No, they have they're either iron pipe, copper, or now plastic.
Wonderful. We always notify the public of bad stuff. Like you just said, if we find this, we have to notify them. How about the good stuff? I mean, this is a perk for the city. We're one of the few cities that have none of lead pipes, and we don't have to expend the money for it. So how do we let the public know that we get an attaboy?
Perhaps the mayor can assist us with some type of public notification. So I think that's certainly an excellent point, and that we should get that out, because I know that there's going to be a lot of concern, with the news articles. I mean, I've seen some in the New Hampshire papers.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And they may say, well, what's going on in Fitchburg? That's where I live. How come I haven't heard anything? So it probably would be good to get that out.
So will you take the lead on this and making sure that the mayor's office gets notified of this procedure and this grandiose position that we sit in?
Yep.
Okay,
I can work on that. So
that's fine.
We did put the results on our city website for the water, of the study, of the assessment, so that is there. Of course, not everybody's going to notice that, but we were required to publish that. But yeah, we can work on a press release for that with the mayor's office and make sure that people, when they do see articles in the Telegram or whatever, or online, that they, can rest assured that we, looked at every single service, both the city side and the customer side, and determine that, there were no lead service lines. So.
And you deserve an attaboy. You deserve an attaboy too for getting that done before it was even requested.
Yeah, no, we've looked at a lot of, like I said, for the schools and stuff, we want to make sure there's not lead in the water and stuff. And we discovered, 4 or 5 years ago, we discovered there were some water fountains that had higher lead, and you'd think it was just the old ones, but no, some of the new ones. We saw some higher levels, nothing that affected the children, because the school department is excellent at flushing everything. It's mainly that first flush after that water's been sitting overnight, where, it's been in contact with the, the copper and such within the water fountain or the piping. So they've always been very good at that. So, but regardless, if you see it in there, with all the we did hundreds and hundreds of samples in the schools. We also offer for daycare facilities, even though they're not public schools, daycare facilities and things like that. We offered it there and helped, worked with DEP to make sure that, if somebody wanted their water tested, we're not aware of every single daycare, so at least the water department isn't, to make sure that their water was tested as well. So, because there could be something within a certain building's plumbing system where maybe there was a higher lead content in that particular copper pipe made in 1950 something or whatever. So, but yeah. Any other questions?
No, but thank you for answering that one.
I think we're good.
Yep.
Thank you, John. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
What's your playing golf?
No, he's got his knee operated on. Mark McNamara, you want to bring us up to date on wastewater?
Sure. Continuing the good news of the good things that Fitchburg is doing. For the wastewater division, I'm going to update us on the construction projects first. An update on the latest CSO project, CSO 10, which is the one we've been doing for the last year and a half, the Upper Main Street. That's 78% completed. And they're still on target to be substantially completed by the end of this year, with a few minor things next construction season in the spring. Since September, the following areas have been completed. Caldwell Place, Park Street, Chestnut Street from Main to Goddard, Bond Street from Goddard to Arlington, and all of Goddard Street have all had their structures adjusted, and they have all been paved. So the remaining areas of this project will be paved in the spring with the new cycle that comes up. Between now and mid-November, we're going to be working on Bond Street, which is going to have a new sewer and drain installation and some miscellaneous water work. Upper View Street is going to have new drain installation, and Crescent Heights is going to get a new sewer installation. So we're trying to get all this stuff in before the construction season ends. And then our next project, CSO 32, is going to be starting before the end of this year also. So CSO 32, the bids were opened on July 11th. GVC Construction was the lowest bidder, and the bids came in at almost $22.8 million for the project. This CSO 32 is around Mechanic Street and Elm Street area and down into the other side of Main Street a little. The DEP authorization to award was issued on August 13th, and we had a pre-construction meeting last Friday on this, with all the parties involved, with the contractor, our engineers, traffic from the city, and the city personnel. We all got together, and we're going to be looking at breaking ground on November 18th for this and going into the winter months. So, and they're going to be beginning in the Elm Street area first before they get into the other areas. This project will go on for about 2 years, and it's going to be a little disruptive for downtown. So we're trying to work with all the parties involved to make sure with John's projects, my projects, Unitel, and everything else that's going on, that we maintain smooth traffic flow in this area. And then next spring, the second half of this project, CSO 45, is going to go out to bid. So we have a lot of downtown work going on for the next 3 years. Does that cover Prospect Street?
Parts of it, yeah. Yep.
Some constituents in the Prospect Street have mentioned that their sewer goes from Prospect down to Mechanic,
Oh, through the backyards.
and comment was made to me, will we finally be able to have the sewer from their homes come out onto Prospect Street versus going through other people's property? So I just want to throw that out there as you guys start to plan, that there is some unusual.
Some of that may not even be possible to bring out to Prospect Street just based on the way elevations and grades work out.
Correct. The ones that did mention it
Yeah.
are at elevation, so.
So we'll have to double check Weston Sampson's plans. I'm sure that they looked at that and tried to bring services out to the street immediately in front of properties versus keeping older lines active going through backyards, but we can double check on that.
Just thought I'd bring it up where.
Yeah, that's a good point.
My attention.
Yeah,
Yeah, very good point.
kind of clean up all that.
Sorry, if I talk fast, just let me know. That's the CSO projects we have going on right now, if anyone has any questions about them. Be talking about a lot of these more as the months go on. It's going to really get entailed. Yes?
I just have some positive feedback, being an effective abutter. In the Bond Street area,
Yes.
the contractor, DiPolito, did I say that right?
Polito.
Polito.
Yep.
Added the D.
I'm not an expert by any means, but they seem to do an excellent job, very neat, very organized. They've been very respectful to the neighborhood. Just want to say hats off.
It's great to receive positive
Yes,
feedback.
it is very good to hear that.
The other positive news, that same contractor won John's Main Street water main project. So after they finish their sewer work, they'll be transitioning over into water main work for the Main Street area. So happy to have them stay in town. My understanding is it'll be the same site supervisor, same crew and everything. So we'll get more of the A team from Polito.
Yeah, Wastewater has been very pleased and happy with them. They've been very good. The next item I have is staffing, once again, on the treatment plant. As you know, we've been struggling with the staffing on the treatment plant. We lost the superintendent back in May. We lost a senior operator in August, and we had another senior operator who was out for a long term on family medical leave. So we were kind of short-staffed with senior operators. Out of a total of 5, we only had 3 active through the whole summer months. But the senior operators have really stepped up. They worked some real long hours, and they did manage to cover all the shifts. I was able to go down the plant and relieve them at times and give them some breaks so that they can have some time with their family. And since that time, since I would say late August, beginning of September, we got some good news where the Massachusetts Wastewater Licensing Board granted one of our operators an emergency grade 6. And so we were able to promote him as a senior operator. So he can take some of the burden off of those other senior operators. But that entailed causing a vacancy on our operators. So it kind of just transferred the burden down one more step down to the operators, but it's more manageable with the operators. Senior operators have to be at the plant. That is the one shift that has to be there all the time. So those are mandated. Operators, we can go a couple of days or a shift or so without a body there. We'll have to make up the duties the next day, as long as everything gets done. So we are still short on operators. We can't hire them because the one we promoted, he's on a temporary grade 6, so we want to make sure that that's permanent before we backfill his position. And the other operator is on medical leave, so he's not scheduled to come back until the end of this year. So it's going to be a little bit further. Yes?
What are your staffing requirements? How many more operators do you need, and how many more senior operators do you need?
We're supposed to have 5 senior operators. Presently, we have 4. So we still have a
So
vacancy.
you're down 1.
Yes, and that's because we did have a very short time we had full staff, but because of the vacancy for the superintendent, one of the senior operators stepped up and expressed interest in the superintendent's position, and so we promoted him, and now he's the acting, well, he's not the acting, he is the plant superintendent down there. So
How many more operators do you need?
we're supposed to have 5 and 5 each. The operator
Supposed to have 10.
positions, what's that?
10 together, right?
10 together, yes.
Okay. And how many do you actually have?
Well, we have 9, but 3 of them are on leave. So out of the 9, we're down.
What kind of leave?
Family medical.
Wow.
We are advertising for a senior operator because that is a permanent vacancy that we need to fill. It's very tough. I've mentioned it before, how hard it is to find senior operators. We're hoping that we can receive one. Time will tell. We're working with, other places where we can use their resources. There was a video I showed a few months back on that Excel program. They may, if they have somebody in this area, they can provide someone that could help us out. But, they're mainly in Boston, and they're very difficult to have someone relocate out here. So the superintendent has been filled. That was a big burden off of my back. He's being trained right now to be the superintendent. We got him access to the reports he needs to do through the our NEPD's permitting program. So he's learning everything that needs to know about being a superintendent. He's doing a fantastic job down there. He's very educated and very knowledgeable about wastewater. So it's been a big relief for me on that. In the future plans, we're still looking at automating the plant to see if that's possible. We've been having a couple of meetings so far. They're gathering all the information, and they're going to put a report together after talking it over with the DEP and see what they require from us and what we would have to do. So that's one way of alleviating some of this shortage of operators. We have to go that route. And that's all I got.
Any questions? Okay. Other business. I just received this, when we got to the meeting here, a request to appeal a decision. We have a policy for water leaks and increased usage. Mark answered the request and denied it. The party is wishing to appeal it. I assume what we should be doing is giving them the opportunity to come and speak at a public forum, and we can make any decision from that point on.
Yeah, I think that's the process that we followed in the past. We have the constituent that filed the appeal here to kind of voice their side of the story, so to speak.
Sure.
And then we talk amongst ourselves and then make a decision whether to uphold Mark's ruling or move forward with the appeal.
Okay.
Grant the appeal.
So I'll give you this correspondence so we can invite them to the next meeting.
Put it on the agenda
Perfect.
for the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay. Any other business?
I don't want to make this a topic of tonight's meeting, but you all know I'm pretty passionate about Overlook Reservoir. So I was sent a memorandum of understanding between the city and the North County Land Trust. And I would just maybe ask that think about where we're at. I know we have an issue you had mentioned about the dam quality, but I'm wondering maybe if we could discuss it at the next meeting and talk about the future of Overlook and its importance from many aspects, historic, just having millions of gallons laying around in case there was ever some type of disaster or emergency, and, you know, how it's used from a recreational standpoint. You know, there's just a lot of pieces to the puzzle. So, again, just want to mention it, don't want to talk about it tonight, but
Mike, quick though.
maybe we could talk about it at the next meeting and maybe come up with a plan to discuss the future, not as a board, but maybe as a city and some different input from departments or
Sure.
residents. That's all.
Before we discuss this, do you want to set up a time for us to go up there and look at the reservoir and have it explain to us what's wrong with it, and we as a board would know exactly what's going on?
That would be great.
Yeah, we could do a site walk. I don't know how that works. If all of us are there and there's a quorum, I believe we need to post it as a meeting.
We might have to do it in two sections.
Or we could do it in smaller groups so that we don't have a quorum when we're up there. But I'm happy to meet everyone up there, you know, either all at once or in different batches, and kind of go over what's wrong with the dam, where it's at, regulatory compliance wise, what it would take to fix the dam and all that.
I'm not saying that's the solution, but just help us all understand what we do too, as Joe and I are on the ZBA, is to make it convenient for department heads and those that would give it the tour or have some topic is, you know, we meet in successive, you know, we'll schedule a meeting for 11 where half of the board can come and then another board at 12. And that way it's more convenient for everybody. So.
Yeah, we can schedule something like that via email. I would like John to attend that, and John's going to be out recovering from his knee surgery, so it'll probably have to wait until sometime next month, but
Yeah.
if that's okay with you, then we can schedule it for next month sometime.
Would really like it though before the meeting.
Personally, I'd like to just
Right.
do it before it's completely empty, because it seems to be pretty close to empty. You know? And I guess that's a question I can ask later on. you know, are we going to continue to drain it?
Yeah, I mean, the issue right now is that there's seepage that's breaking through the dam, and in order to control that seepage, we've drawn down the impoundment a certain amount. But that, combined with the relatively small watershed and the relatively dry summer that we've had, means a lower impoundment level, similar to the situation we have going on at Mirror Lake. Mirror Lake Dam doesn't fall underneath the jurisdiction of this board, but same deal there. We have seepage that's been going on for years and years. It's not structurally deficient in any way, but combined with the dry water level and relatively low refresh rate from groundwater and precipitation, it just means a lower impoundment level. So
Yeah.
the pond's low, basically. Same situation there. So happy to talk about it further and come up with a couple of site visit dates.
Great, thank you.
Great. Any other business? Okay, our next meeting is Wednesday, November 20th, and the meeting will be here.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.